The Greens have doubled down on a push to freeze rents for 2 years to allow incomes to catch up to surging costs. Parliamentary library analysis, released by the political party this week, indicated renters across the country combined would be $7.1 billion better off if rents had been frozen over the past 12 months. Watch the video above, why the median house could be worth $150,000 less by the end of 2023. Watch the latest news on Channel 7 or stream for free on 7+. That's because, the data says, rents increased by 14% nationwide in that time period. The average renter, it says, is paying $3,151 more for their home now than they did last year. Greens Housing and Homelessness spokesperson Max Chandler Mather said a rent freeze would provide real and immediate cost of living relief. For families choosing between buying food and paying the rent, $3,000 could mean the difference between eviction into homelessness and keeping a roof over their heads, he said. Rents are out of control, millions of Australians are struggling to pay the rent, and families are facing living in tents and cars because they can't afford record rent increases. When Australian renters have paid an extra $7 billion in rent over the last year alone, no wonder so many are struggling. Tenants across the country continue to be slogged with higher and higher rent. The hardest hit has been Sydney, where rent has increased 23.7% in the past 12 months, according to the latest SQM Research Weekly Rents Index data. There, the median cost combined for units and houses is now $666.41 per week. Brisbane rentals have increased by 22.2% in the past year, followed by Melbourne, 19.3%, Adelaide, 18.6%, and Perth, 15.6%. Along with a major and immediate investment in social housing, phasing out negative gearing and capital gains discounts, and a 2-year rent freeze, followed by ongoing rent caps will help stop this housing crisis boiling over into a national disaster, Chandler Mather said. If the government is serious about cost of living relief, if they're serious about affordable housing, then it's a no-brainer to freeze rent rises. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese took a plan to improve housing supply into the 2022 federal election. His Housing Australia Future Fund is aimed at addressing the issue of people being priced out of the market. Part of the problem we have seen is that you have seen a reduction in Commonwealth engagement and involvement in building new social housing, he said in April. When we were last in office, we built something in the order of 20,000 additional social housing units, but we renovated or refurbished some 80,000. We changed also the social experience of people in that public housing. Why is renting getting more expensive? National property values are declining, dropping 2% in the 3 months to July, according to CoreLogic. They're expected to fall further as the Reserve Bank of Australia continues to hike interest rates. But rental prices are trending in the opposite direction. This can largely be attributed to demand. According to Domain, the national rental vacancy rate is at its lowest point on record. Its July report found the rate had fallen for 5 consecutive months to 0.9%. Tenants Union Chief Executive Officer Leo Patterson-Ross told 7 News. Com.au that supply and demand would be the determining factor of how much landlords would charge for rent, not the cash rate. Essentially, it's very unlikely that an interest rate rise will have an impact on rents, he said. We have a very unregulated market. In every state, essentially, the landlord can increase the rent, usually with some timing and notice restrictions to whatever the current market rent is for the property, and you consider, in general, that property in comparison to other properties. But essentially it's the market. And so, tenants can negotiate or they can challenge on an increase to say, I think you've overpitched. But people actually just find it very difficult to do that, often because we have a renting system that's so imbalanced towards the landlord that your option is often, even explicitly, presented as you can accept any increase or I can evict you, which would you rather?